Welcome to the Explainer. So glad you're here. Look, today we're diving into the ultimate universal daydream. Just imagine it. A little device that lets you pause all your modern stress, the absolute chaos of your week, with a single click. No more running out of hours in the day, no more rushing. We've all wished for it, right? But as we're going to see, stepping out of the flow of time isn't just some breezy fantasy. It actually forces you into a completely bizarre dance with hard physics and human psychology. Let's get right into it.
So, what if you really could pause time? I want you to mentally step into that simulation with me for a second. Imagine hitting a button and instantly dropping into this infinite buffer zone. Your deadlines? Gone. Your boss's emails? They literally can't reach you. The deafening, nonstop pace of the world outside just drops to absolute zero. It sounds like the perfect antidote to, well, everything stressful, doesn't it? Absolute paradise. But like any wild sci-fi concept, the devil is entirely in the details.
Okay, this is where we hit a real record scratch moment. We've got the movie version of time stopping, and then we have the physics version. You've definitely seen the movie version 100 times. It's so clean. The protagonist hits pause, casually strolls past a bunch of frozen people, maybe hilariously adjusts a few objects, and hits play. Super easy, right? But if the universe's hard-coded physics actually reacted to a time stop, yeah, reality hits hard. You don't get a fun playground, you get pitch black darkness, you're trapped in frozen air, and every single object is completely unmovable. Let's break down exactly why. Section 1. The physics bottleneck. Sci-fi versus reality.
All right, the first major hurdle here is absolute darkness. Light travels via moving photons, right? That's just fundamental physics. So if time stops completely, the photons have to stop moving too. The exact millisecond you click that button, you do not get a beautifully lit frozen room. Nope. You are plunged into total pitch black darkness. Why? Because no light waves can actually travel through the air to reach your retinas. The only way you could theoretically see anything is if you physically walked forward, literally scooping up stationary photons with your eyeballs as you move through space. Just imagine how utterly terrifying and disorienting that would be. And honestly, it gets worse. Think about the air around us. We'll call this concrete air. Now, we don't usually think about it, but air is just a bunch of gas molecules that easily move out of the way when you walk. But with time completely frozen, every single one of those molecules gets firmly locked in place, zero velocity. So if you try to take a step, walking through this frozen air would feel like trying to push your entire body through a solid block of dense, invisible setting gelatin. Even just trying to force air into your lungs to breathe becomes an exhausting, bizarre physical trial. Which brings us right to our third physical bottleneck, unmovable objects. Let's look at the basic equation for momentum. P equals mv, or mass times velocity. And remember, velocity is just distance divided by time. So if time is zero, the math fundamentally breaks. If you tried to pick up something completely mundane like your morning coffee cup, you'd find it to be infinitely heavy. Since momentum strictly requires time, moving any frozen object, even a fraction of an inch, would mathematically require infinite force. You couldn't lift a piece of paper, let alone adjust someone's posture for a prank. So to even keep this daydream going, we basically have to invent a cheat code. We need a sci-fi exception, which we'll call the local sandbox. Let's just assume your magical time stop clicker has a built-in safety protocol that generates a 5-foot kinetic bubble right around your body. Inside this local sandbox, light, air, and gravity all function completely normally. You can breathe, you can see, and that coffee cup behaves exactly like a coffee cup should. Okay, so now that we've established some rules that let you actually survive, the next big question is, how do you practically use this kind of immense power? Section 2, cheat codes and consequences. The psychological toll. First up, using this as the ultimate work buffer. The application here is super obvious and honestly incredibly tempting. You pause time to write an entire script, build out a massive project, or maybe master a complex skill like learning a new language, all without losing a single calendar day. You step out looking like an absolute genius to the rest of the world, but the long-term catch? Asymmetrical aging. While the world thinks you're this high-speed prodigy, your biological clock inside that sandbox is still ticking away. Spend enough cumulative time in the pause, and you're going to look 40 years old while all your friends are just turning 30. You are literally trading your physical youth for a few extra hours. Okay, our next strategy is the high-stakes audit. Picture this. You pause time right in the middle of a meeting, you freeze the room, walk over and read a competitor's open laptop, or maybe check out a client's hidden notes. It lets you perfectly map out an unwinnable negotiation. It is the ultimate corporate cheat code. But the long-term catch is something we call the paranoia trap. If you do this enough, you quickly realize that knowing every single unfiltered secret around you completely destroys the mystery of life. When you always know exactly what everyone is hiding, human interactions start to feel totally scripted, hollow, and just profoundly lonely.
Finally, let's talk about the emergency shield strategy. The application here is literally life-saving. You click the button the exact split second a glass drops or a car skids on ice, you casually and safely step out of harm's way, and then unpause. Sounds great, right? Well, the catch is a state of crushing hypervigilance. You'll become intensely, overwhelmingly anxious anytime your hand isn't physically touching that clicker. You'll be haunted by this terror that a disaster might happen just a fraction of a second faster than your reflex to press the button. Your ultimate safety net just becomes a source of endless paranoia.
Section 3. The static silence. The emotional weight.
At first, there's obviously this tremendous initial joy. Hitting pause would feel so liberating. You could sleep for an extra 12 hours right in the middle of a brutal workday. You could read a whole library in a single frozen afternoon, just sitting in absolute perfect quiet. But then, the eerie reality really sets in. After a few subjective days inside this frozen state, the novelty absolutely fades, because a world without time is, by definition, a world devoid of life. There's no wind rustling the leaves, water doesn't flow, and the people you love, they're just standing there, frozen mid-sentence, exactly like wax statues with these eerie, unblinking stares. The whole world basically becomes a museum of frozen ghosts. And that brings us to a really crucial point, captured beautifully in this quote from our source material. The beauty of human life is entirely tied to its momentum. Spending time in that static silence would make you realize that the ticking clock, the exact thing that stresses us out so much every day, is what actually makes a conversation meaningful, a sunset beautiful, or a shared milestone so valuable. Without the forward motion of time, literally nothing happens. The pause button might be a phenomenal tool to occasionally catch your breath, for sure, but a static world, it's just not a living world. Which leaves us with one final lingering thought to chew on. Knowing the pitch-black physics, the asymmetrical aging, the paranoia, and that creepy dead silence of a frozen world, if you actually had that button in your hand right now and you pressed it to escape your day, how quickly would you race to hit play again, just to hear this chaotic, beautiful world start moving? It really makes you think, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.